Hello, welcome to the Data Channel, and you're watching ChatGPT for Data Professionals. And as part of the topic 2, we'll be discussing about prompt engineering and its key features. So, prompt engineering is one of a process of designing and refining an input prompt to kind of optimize the performance of the languages. And example is ChatGPT itself, and the goal is to guide the model to generate the relevant and accurate response to the user based on the whatever the prompt or the input is being keyed by the user, right? So that is what we call it as a prompt engineering in a sentence. And this is a art. Prompt engineering is a art of how do you kind of a prompt chat gpt or artificial intelligence, that is a generative ai, to get the maximum out of it. So, like generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence to uh, generate the result. So, or generate the output, right? So it has its own intelligence. Generative AI has its own intelligence to generate the output or create a new content for that matter. So to get the content that what is relevant to you, so you need to be having that knowledge or the art of prompting in a specific way so that you get the maximum out of the chat GPT or any generative AI for that matter. So prompt engineering is not restricted for only ChatGPT. You are using any generative AI tool application. So this is relevant. So prompt engineering is not relevant to ChatGPT. Okay. So it is very important to understand prompt engineering. Okay. Maybe you are working as a data professional. Maybe you are working as a data analyst, right? Data engineer, data scientist. For all of these professionals, prompt engineering is very relevant so that they can get the maximum out of what their daily activities are, or in their daily task they can get the maximum support from the chat gpt or any generative ai tool. Okay, so before proceeding, we would recommend you to please subscribe and also press bell button for instant notifications. So let's get started. So prompt engineering, as we were explaining, right, it's a art. First of all, prompt engineering is an art, and you need to know it is a art developed over the time. So you cannot just say that I'm a prompt engineer by just prompting one or two times or just understanding the principles of prompt engineering, right? So you need to practice those prompt engineering, and over the time you can build that skill. Prompt engineering is a skill, and it is also art, as we said. So there is a certain key principle we need to consider when you want to become a prompt engineer. And prompt engineering is not specific to any software engineers or data engineers or data scientists. So it is relevant for all the IT professionals or even non-IT professional who want to get the get the output or the get the help from generative AI for any topic for that matter, right? And the goal of prompt engineering is to model the generate the most relevant and accurate response. Okay, so then the main important thing here is based on the given input, right? See, we need to make sure here whatever we are saying based on the given input. This is very important here because so this is what defines the prompt engineering. Okay, so if the input is not given properly, how does that generative AI tool understands, right? So you need to know how to communicate with the generative AI tool. So that is what we call it as a prompt engineering. So it might look simple, but there are a lot of nuances in it. So those we are calling it as a key. Those are the key features of prompt engineering. So that we will discuss in detail, right? So what are the key features of prompt engineering? So these are the key features of prompt engineering. So you need to have clarity, constraints, structure, specificity, context, pre-trained knowledge, iterative refinement, and error handling. So clarity is nothing but when you talk about prompting, so it should be clear and unambiguous to ensure that the model understands the task, avoiding the vague or over complex language, right? And which helps the quality of the generated response. You want to ask a specific thing, right? So you need to be very, like, you should be having clear understanding of what you are asking. So if you don't have the understanding, so then prompt engineering might also get confused, right? And it might not give the expected results. And you have a structure. So structure is nothing but like the structure of the prompt can influence the response. So maybe you are giving the input to the prompt engine like ChatGPT or any tool using a formats like questions, bullet points, uh, or step by step instructions, and can help the model generate the organized and more relevant content. So you need to like organize or structure your question in certain cases. So that also you need to take care, right? You can organize it as a bullet point. You can organize it as a different paragraphs, right? So you can think of that. And the context. So context is very, very important. Context provisioning is nothing but you are providing a sufficient context with a prompt. Helps the model to understand the background of what you are asking and generate more informed responses. Because whenever you ask a question, so the prompt can give the response to you, but it doesn't understand based on what is your perspective of that asking that question. That is what the context, what is the context of your asking the question. So context may be like you are asking a generic question related to some formula in mathematics, right? But it will just give the general response for that formula. But you might, if you ask from the data scientist perspective, if you say that you are a data scientist, so then it understands the context that you are a data scientist, and based on that it gives the result, or it explains that formula to you. So that will be more relevant, right? And iterative refinement is prompt is nothing but it is a, we also call it as a conversational AI. That means so you need to kind of keep that conversation with a artificial intelligence tool or generative AI tool to make it to understand more better. So if you communicate more with the person, how the person can understand you much better. In the similar way, the more questions you ask, the more answers you give to the what ChatGPT is asking you. So that way you both understand as a like as a tool and as a person who is doing a prompting, both will understand mutually, right? And that by evaluating the model's output, and that helps in and adjusting the prompts accordingly. So it can refine the results. Chat can refine the results, and one can progressively improve the quality and relevance of that response that's been given. Okay. And we have a constraints. So constraints also, like suppose you have you want to add a constraint or specify the format of the output, can help control the model's response. This can include, maybe you can say I want to limit the length of the response to 3 to 4 sentence, or specifying maybe like a tone. Maybe you want a response in a professional way, funny way, or in a humorous way. So you give the you are saying that you want to give some constraints in that case, right? So that way you can restrict the outputs that's been given out. Okay. And also you are having a specificity. So specificity is again to be uh, very relevant, or to ask the question in more specific way. So generic questions can be asked, but you will get a generic answer, but that would not help. So this will include the details and context with the prompt guides the models to focus on more relevant information, right? And you need to be understanding of what the particular tool you might be using, ChatGPT or any generative AI tool. You should be aware of what is the knowledge, what is the base knowledge of that particular tool. Because so if you take ChatGPT 3, it is based on a certain year, it is trained on certain year data, maybe 2020 or 2022, something like that, right? If you take ChatGPT 4, 4.0, it will be more updated. It will be trained with a more updated data. So that way you should understand what tool you are using and how much knowledge it has. Because if it doesn't have the knowledge of relevant, like if there is anything you are asking of maybe 15 days old or 20 days old question, that tool might not understand that question, or it might sometimes hallucinate, and it might give the wrong information. So it's very important to understand the strengths and limitation of the language, that language model that helps in crafting prompts, so that leverages the model's pre-trained knowledge efficiently. Okay. And finally we have error handling. So error handling is like anticipating and addressing potential misunderstanding or errors in the prompt can improve the reliability of the response. This might include or involve clarifying common ambiguities and explicitly instructing the model on to avoid that. So that way you are like if there is any errors that or any hallucination especially that's been happening, and because of that the errors will be in the response, so you can specify that okay, this is a point where there is a inaccurate result and prompt can correct that result when you are doing a conversational or prompting in a conversational way. Okay, so now you might ask, okay, great, these are the features, but I want to know how exactly this works in the reality, right? So let's jump to the chat GPT itself, and let's try to understand one by one each. Okay, so first one is we were talking about clarity. So clarity means, as we saw, like we want to get the more, you want to prompt with a more clarity, right? So suppose I want to say, describe the process of photosynthesis, right? So you can correct that and you can just give that. So here you're giving you're prompting and it is having more clarity, right? So what you want to define? So you want to define the process of photosynthesis. So you are just saying, and it is clearly defining the process of photosynthesis with all the steps and all those things. So you could have just said just photosynthesis, right? So even then it gives the result, right? And but the difference, there would be a certain difference that what it is giving. So here it might be give the different result, and when you just give photosynthesis, the difference might be little different. So you need to give that clarity what you want to do. Well, we want to describe the process of photosynthesis, or you just want to understand what is photosynthesis or define photosynthesis, right? So that is about the clarity, and you need to ask more specific questions. Like there might be cases where, say for example, I want to list three benefits of regular exercise. See here I'm asking specifically three benefits. I could have asked five benefits, I could have asked 10 benefits, but I want only three benefits of regular exercise. So this is again a specific, you are asking, you are looking for more specific answer here. So it is just giving three results here, right? So you can ask more specifically what you want, right? And now the next example is you want to have more structured output, right? Structured means there might be some series of steps you want to get, right? In a structured manner. Like say for example, I want to get to know what are the steps to make a cup of a coffee, right? So then it gives you the steps. So gather the supplies, prompt, prepare the coffee maker, etc., etc., right? So it is giving you the series of steps here, and this is what we call it as a structured output. So here you are mentioning the steps to make a coffee. So this is important. So this is nothing but you are asking the prompt to give the result in more structured way. Okay. And next is a context you want to provide, right? So like you can say one way is like if you want to understand the context more briefly, right? So I'll just give explain World War One. Okay, I can just say this. Okay, and you'll get certain result here. So whatever, right? Here's the causes and who are the what is the militarism and other details. It's just preparing that result, right? But here I want to provide the more context for the what I'm asking. Okay, so now I instead of just asking the World War One, so I'll ask more. I'll give the context to it from the context of say Treaty of Versailles, right? So I'll just stop this. So I'll explain with context of whatever Treaty of Versailles, right? So now it starts producing the result based on the Treaty of Versailles, right? So with that context, it's giving the result now. So this is more contextual. So here, whatever you are seeing the result, there is nothing more about this treaty what we are discussing. Okay, but if you want to understand more about the treaty, you need to ask for it. Okay, and you need to ask from that context. So it will give the context of from the context of treaty, what is this particular treaty, what are the things, what are the key provisions of the treaty, etc. Okay, impact of the treaty, etc. Right. So that is from the contextual perspective. So you can even ask like you can start asking more contextual. You can ask from Adolf Hitler perspective, right? So here again it is a context. From Adolf Hitler perspective, what is the Treaty of Versailles? Okay, so it is you are adding a more context to it. So whenever you go on adding more context to it, so it starts refining it to the more specific and granular details. Okay, and next is iterative refinement. So iterative refinement is again, as we discussed, it's a kind of a prompt kind of engineering, right? So where it's a conversational engineering more of, right? So you start conversating with the ChatGPT to kind of understand each other much better and produce the results. So like say for example, I ask, tell me about a climate change. Okay, so it will just give me the results generically. Okay, generally it says whatever the causes, climates, etc., etc. And then I'll ask it to refine it more. Okay, so I'll say explain the causes and effects of climate change on the environment. Okay, so it starts giving the that particular results. Again, the output is more refined now. Okay, it is giving the more refined output. Okay, so do you have, please ask questions so that it will help to refine the result. So I'm asking if you have any questions, please feel free to ask that questions, right? So now, so as you can see, when I asked it, please ask a question so that it help. So it is asking me now. So I asked it. So if you have any questions, please ask me so that you can refine the result. So it is asking me what specific environment factor are most impacted by the climate. What do greenhouse? So it is recommending. So these are the questions that you can ask, and it has two pages also. It's a paginated questions. Okay. So that's how it. This is about what we said is iterative refinement. You can start iteratingly refining the questions, and you can ask these particular questions, and it can you can ask the question to ask question, so that way you understand each other much better, right? And then we have a use of constraints. So constraints is you can give the constraint as we were discussing. Like say for example, I want to say summarize the plot of Pride and Prejudice in 100 or less words. So it is just giving the results. So 100 or less words is a constraint here, right? So you can give 10 or less word, you can give 1000 or less word. Okay, so you can give all those kind of constraints. Okay, and explain this in more humorous way. So again, here the humorous is a constraint. Again, I'm putting the humorous as a constraint. So it is giving the output, the same output in a more humorous way. So this is what we call as a constraint. Okay. And next is leveraging the pre-trained knowledge. So you should understand what you are asking. Okay. Suppose you cannot just ask what are the key events that happened on say July 2024. So you might ask this question, but as you can see, I don't have a real-time browsing capability at the moment for July 2024, right? So that is why you need to understand a particular tool till what date it is trained. So it doesn't have a, if it doesn't have the pre-trained knowledge, you cannot ask that question. Okay. So now let's ask the same question with 2020 2022, for example, right? So it can give some key events that happened on 2022 because it has that knowledge. Okay, so that is a key important thing when you want to understand the pre-trained knowledge of a particular chat or a particular generative AI tool. Okay, because it cannot have all the knowledge, right? So it is having some limitations when it is getting trained, what data it is trained with. Okay, some tools can be trained with a near real-time data. Some tools can be having a data of 1 year old or 5 year old data. So we need to know that what exactly the constraints of that tool is. Okay, with respect to knowledge it has. The last is error handling. So error handling is nothing but so like there might be a cases you can ask explain the difference between there and they are. So this is the like it explains here, right? And you can just easily understand what is the error handling with respect to this example. Okay, because these are the errors. Like suppose if the chat is giving any output with these three words, so you can just ask the difference to it. So and it easily gives that error handling capabilities. And if there is any error in this, right? So it is a car. So there is some particular error in this, right? So you can say found a inaccurate result at point one. So you can say that. Okay, you can give the feedback to it. So then it tries to correct that result and it can try to give you more refined result. So maybe you can try with a different example so that so here it's a feedback loop. So you're correcting, it's your error handling, you're correcting the chat on a particular result that it gives. Okay, so now coming back, so these are the key prompt engineering features that we were able to understand: clarity, structure, context, iterative refinement, constraints, specificity, pre-trained knowledge, and error handling. So, and hope this was kind of a useful for you. If it is useful, we recommend you to please subscribe so that you can get the more updated videos. Thanks for watching.